Thanks for tuning into the Three Circles Living podcast, where you can learn how to improve your life. No matter if it's accelerating your professional career, having better relationships, feeling healthier, being healthier, or find fulfillment in life, this is a podcast for you. And as always, please make sure to share it and also comment with the nugget that you've found most valuable for your life. We appreciate it. Today, we're diving back into mental health, and a big part of that is the intellectual health part, really growing your mind, growing your life, and why it's so important. And it should be a non-negotiable in your life as well. I was a little bit, just to jump right in, I was a little hesitant and concerned and worried and resistant to doing it, but I soon learned that it was really helpful and changed my life a lot. So let's go into
What
it.
do you mean by that?
Because I never thought that I needed to work on myself or needed to, grow or learn more because I went to school and did like 13 years of school and then another 4 years of college, and I got all these degrees and certifications, and I was like, yeah, let's go. I'm good. Like I don't need more. I know everything now, you know. Yeah, I did not.
That had nothing to do with school, and that had to do with age,
Yeah,
maturity.
that too. I definitely know now that I don't know anything and I always will learn something new.
Well, it's not that you don't know anything. It's just that, and it's not just you, it's me too. We know very little. The older you get and the wiser you get, I should just say the wiser you get, but normally it takes the aging process to get there. You just realize how little you actually know, right?
Yeah.
Anytime you meet someone who's self-important or thinks they know everything, you're meeting someone who has not learned much at all yet. That's essentially what you're meeting, because how is it possible? Experts don't know everything about the thing they're an expert in, right? Why? Because it's evolving. Everything is evolving all the time, but that's a whole separate piece. But this topic it's really personal growth, right? It's personal development. We have it as intellectual health because it's a nice way to put it, but it's actually what it is. And so Chris, I'm turning the tables on you here for a second. How did you get exposed even to the idea that you could work on yourself? Because that's what this is. I call it learning on purpose, right? Well,
Yeah.
school learning, for the most part, it's not on purpose. You go there because you don't have a choice, and then you go, and then you're learning a bunch of stuff that you actually will never use in your life, or you could find an AI in 1 second. But that's not putting down the process. It's just different stuff should probably being taught. But how did it come to you?
How it came to me was, well, it was a process.
Mhm.
But my dad actually, when I was 18, he gave me a book and it's called The Secret. And he's like, read it. That was like the first thing. And I was like, oh, I opened my mind because I never read books that were non-fictional. I always like read fictional books and wanted to be entertained rather than do something for me, right? And then, but I was very, like I said in the beginning, hesitant. And he also invited me to some personal development events and um, to trainers. Again, I literally, if you see me, if you don't see me, imagine it. But I was sitting like this, like my arms crossed, and I'm like, I don't care what you have to say. You don't know anything, right? Why should I do anything? I was 18, and I thought I had my life figured out how I wanted to be and was on that path to do it. But as I got older, and I'm thankful that he did it in hindsight, right?
Mm.
And I apologize to him already, so please don't be mad at me, anybody out there. But he, like in hindsight, I know in my early 20s, after I got on the path that I thought I was on, that I wanted to be on, I felt really tired and exhausted and stuck. And I was like, is that the life for the next 50, 60 years? Like, how will that look like? Um, and so I was looking for that next thing. And I asked myself, the first question that based on all of that was like, okay, how can I change? Which I was resistant because I'm like, people should help me to change or help do something for me. I shouldn't have to do anything. I already did everything, right? And then, the first thing I did was I Googled, what is happiness? How can I be happy? Because that is what I thought, got me on that path because I wasn't happy. I was stuck. I was just blah all the time. And that just unraveled a whole kind of thing, like hundreds, probably thousands of books later at this point. And lots of courses and personal steady development, like every single day. I make sure to read and learn and really support my mind, in that way.
Well, great. It's a great book that your dad gave you as a first book. Um, Obviously, that's a terrific read. And we're obviously not going to talk about fiction, but I will say fiction, which I read a lot of fiction. I read a lot of nonfiction, but I read a lot of fiction too. There's value in reading fiction. It's not just entertainment. It also helps your logical brain, and it helps you in problem solving, and it helps you in critical thinking, and it expands your vocabulary. And it's a whole lot better than watching television. Let's put it that way, because you still have to actively, your brain is working much harder than it is when you're just watching something. But I was a lot older than that when I got introduced to personal. I was 10 years older than that. I was 28. And it was in my first year in a home business environment back in 1989, which to me is one of the reasons everybody should get into a home business. One, it teaches you how to take ownership and learn things that you're resistant to learn because they're all part of the process of building something. And it skills you up very fast. But the other thing it does is exposes you to the world of personal development. And to me, it was like, oh my gosh, are you kidding me? Because before you get to that place where you become personally develop oriented, which everyone, and I don't like to use the word should, but I'm going to use it here, should be. Because if you think about it, it's the most important thing you could do, right? Besides physically taking care of yourself, it's developing yourself, because you are your only resource. You're it, right? You get time, right? That's what you get. You don't get anything else. Everything else is what you do with what you have. And if you don't get into a personal development perspective, then you are stuck in a fixed mindset. You have this belief that this is what I am, but you don't even know what you are. You only know what you think you are or what you're not, because you're limited based on how you're experiencing the world and what you've had to do in navigating that. And so one of my kind of, it's like, it's not conceptual, but it's the way I see each human. Your personality is a wonderful gift. It's also a curse if you are not developed, because everybody has tendencies, which automatically means they have blind spots. And we have areas where we navigate well, and other areas where we just feel like we're totally lost all the time. And that's developmentally oriented, right? It's the difference between IQ and EQ, so to speak, right? And your IQ doesn't really mean much. It means that maybe you process a little faster than another person, unless it's like so far off the chart. And then that is a serious gifting for you. But otherwise, it doesn't mean much. It's your EQ, and that's development oriented, right? That's self-awareness and learning where you're strong and where you're weak, and where your skills need polishing, and all those kinds of things. And this is one of the single things that can accelerate your trajectory in anything you ever do, is working on personal development purposefully. And for me, it was like, oh my gosh, I'm not stuck being this way. Because, as I've shared in the past, and as you know, that I had a very, very low opinion of myself, and I could only see my flaws. I didn't know I had anything else of value. And I certainly don't have, I don't have much greater than anybody else, and neither does anybody else. We all have good stuff and we have stuff we don't like. That's just part of the path. But we are all unique, which means we're all rare, which makes us all valuable, and we all have a contribution to make, and we can't make that contribution without getting our life in order and also without becoming the best version of ourselves. And that only happens through personal development. I mean, if you think about the way who you become in life is driven so much by your experiences, unless you're being purposeful with learning. But that's the only other way. Otherwise, it's just experience. And
Yeah.
so then you're limited by what experiences you get and what you lean into, which if you're not personally developed, you're not going to lean into a lot. You're going to step away from a lot. So really it's such an important topic. Everybody should be exposed to it when they're 6. I mean, not when they're lucky. You were fortunate at 18 to be exposed to it. I feel like I was fortunate at 28 to be exposed to it. There's a lot of people that hear about self-help and personal and think, oh, well, that's just woo-woo stuff.
Yeah.
Which is,
Roll my eyes.
yeah, which means that they've never truly been exposed to it, right?
Yeah.
You're going to read a book and it's going to make you famous, or you're going to become super. No, it's not. It's just going to help you understand and begin the process of it.
Yes. I love that you said understand yourself, but also understand others on a whole other level.
Yes.
And I have a good example, I think, but I want to repeat something real quick, like taking responsibility, taking control of your life. Again, we spoke about that in the previous episodes too, but this is an opportunity for you to take control and get back into control. Like, this is very important.
Yeah.
And I hope everybody is getting that and not waiting around for others or for someone else to rescue you, but you can actively do something no matter where you are at. And we shared it, like, we didn't really like ourselves. Like, I didn't want to look myself in the mirror. I thought, I was this ugly, introverted, shy being with the peepy, mousy type voice that never amounted to anything, that doesn't have anything good to say.
But you
So,
knew everything. How ironic, right?
yeah, very ironic. But to hopefully encourage you, I want to share that example. And that happened about 8 years ago. My husband was deployed. I was in Germany, and we were getting ready to move again. And we were discussing about how we want to, in what the interior should look like in our living room that we're going to move into. An average example that you can run into. It's not about work. It's not about any major things. It's about everyday example. And I think it was the weekend before, I happened to do a personality development seminar with a test. And I really learned a lot about myself that I didn't even knew before that in the 7 years prior to me really diving into it. And I was like, oh wow, eye-opening, but who I am and how I come across to other people. So my husband and I were deciding about this, and we were looking at there's no promotion here, but I have to say it, IKEA website to look at like what we want to choose. And he's like, oh, let's go a little bit out there and let's have some color in our living room because we never did that. I'm like, yes, I'm all for it. Let's do it. And they had like this builder on their page, and we're like, okay, we each build what we want it to look like, and then we compare tomorrow. I'm like, awesome. I build it, he built it. The next day we compared, and his was like organized, like really looking great. And mine was like all over the place, all the colors and like just out there. And he was like, oh my gosh, what are you doing to me? My brain hurts. Like we can't, this is, and I almost started to argue with him because I'm like, why? This is amazing, like, right? But I understood, no, he processes things differently. He's a different personality. I am this. I don't care. We can go with him. Fine. We don't need to have an argument, right? I just showed what I liked. Doesn't matter. And so we went on and we didn't have an argument. It's that simple shift in your day-to-day activities, but then it builds into your career, your community, your other relationships, all of it.
That's a great example because of the simplicity of that example, right? And how it was right on the heels of you doing something that created more self-awareness for yourself and understanding yourself more,
Yeah.
which is exactly the point, right? That like the whole emotional intelligence journey starts with self-awareness, and then it moves into self-management, because once you become aware of what you know, what you don't know, what you where you need to work, then self-management is the work on that,
Hmm.
right? And then through that process, right, through working on yourself, then you can drop into the next quadrant, which is essentially social awareness, for lack of a better word, right? Which then it's social management. It's the relationship piece that comes after that. Most people are walking around trying to fix other people when they're broken, right? Not the other person's broken. Well, of course the other person's broken. We're all broken. But the point is, people are trying to get other people to change so that they fit into the box that they believe they should be in based on how they see the world, which is really tiny, right? It's like so limited, unless. So you can always tell someone who has done a lot of personal development work, because they can be engaged in any measure of a conversation, and they can hear all kinds of different perspectives, and they can appreciate those perspectives instead of pushing back on those perspectives right away because they're not like their perspective, which is ridiculous to think that there's not one perspective on anything, right? That everything has multiple perspectives. And so it's such a important thing. And we're gonna talk a little bit about how to, but here's a little bit of why to.
Hmm.
From an actual development perspective, right? You think about the 3 pound human brain. I think that's what they say it is, like 3 pounds. I don't know that mine's that big, but I know that we got a brain. Everybody's got a brain. And it's a supercomputer that most people don't know how to use. And we don't know how to use a fraction of it, but we know how to use some of it. But you have to work it. It's like a muscle in that regard. You have to work it, right? When you work your muscles, right? When you work your muscles in fitness, your body recruits new muscle fibers. It expands, right? Well, that's what happens to your brain. It creates new connections, right? They call it neuroplasticity. I am not a technical scientist. I'm not that guy. But if you look this up, the act of feeding your mind on a purposeful basis, of reading good things, of putting good materials in, of learning, grows your mind. It grows it. It creates new connections. It creates better memory. It creates ability to concentrate. It creates better focus. All of these things, not to mention, it really is, it's just like the physical side of you. It's use it or lose it.
Mm.
If you don't work it, it's going to stop working. And it's going to stop working way sooner than it should. And there's also, there's naturally a decline, right? I'm not going to be as sharp at 64 as I was at 34, just from a physiological perspective. But that shouldn't matter. It shouldn't matter, right? So that's the power of this. So, Chris, what are some of your tips, right? If someone gets it, right, they're like, okay. And actually, before I give you that to just run with, you have to look at this as not an optional thing. Just like you can't look at exercise or physical health as optional. It's not optional. You wouldn't get a car and then never take care of it. That would be stupid. Right now, if you didn't take care of it, you could get a new car. You could. You can't get a new body, and you can't get a new brain. Right. So you really don't have any choice in this matter. It's a matter of what you choose to do to help it. It's not whether or not you choose to help it, right? You're automatically guaranteeing a life of less if you don't do these things. And you also have to be patient, because you cannot microwave learning and development. There's no such thing. People are like, well, I want to watch a 1 minute video on YouTube. I'm like, okay, that's going to give you nothing. Nothing. You don't learn anything in 1 minute. You have to really take things in and sit with them and work with them and try them and practice them. And that's how you learn. So what are your go-tos? I mean, you started with the obvious, right? Reading is enough.
Reading. Yes. Definitely started with the obvious of reading. I went into definitely YouTube a lot of things, and I watched a lot of videos, but not with 1 minute videos. And then I did a lot of classes, and if there was a speaker, motivational speaker, coach, anything like I was there or I watched it. There are a lot of online seminars that you can take, everything. But I think the most important part is no matter what you do, like you said, it's not a one-time thing. Like it's not that you go to a weekend and to a seminar and then you think, oh yeah, Monday is I'm a changed person. Doesn't work. Let me tell you, I've tried that. It doesn't work. You actually have to put in the work and you have to apply the knowledge that you gain from reading, from the seminar, from anything else. But what I like to do is I like to have books constantly that I read at least a chapter or 10 pages or whatever my goal is a day. I love to listen to podcasts. I mean, ours is a good one, just FYI.
Yes, yes.
Listen to. But then also like try new things. Try something that you would have never thought of trying, or try different hobbies, or go out and do something that, previously you wouldn't have really done because it's like, that's not me. Like I'm not doing this. Like just try it. Like just go on in the community. I mean, on social media, there are tons of groups where you can just ask. There are walking groups, there are meetup groups, there are Toastmasters where you like just try something new, challenge yourself to do that. Um, those are my go-tos.
Those are all good. For me, right, for me, it started with 15 minutes of reading a day. That's what it
Mm.
started with. And that I've never stopped that, except it's expanded. And it's the way I did it, because I'm a freak about time usage, is I have aerobic exercised for, since that same time period was when I started physically taking care of myself. And I can't stand aerobic exercise. I absolutely hate it. I mean, I despise it. I don't mind running to something or from something. I don't mind swimming to something or from something. I don't mind, biking to something or from something, but just to do it is like makes me go mad. So I read. And so for years I did an hour. At this stage of my life, the resistance training as you get older is much more important than the aerobic as you get older, because muscle mass is king for you to have an active life. And so now I only do 30 minutes of aerobic in a gym every day. And so I read that entire 30 minutes, but I have multiple other books that I read through the day. And so that's number one. Number two is I will listen to things. Now it could be a YouTube, but I don't really care about watching it. It's a listening it. So I'm listening to, heck, I'll go YouTube a Jim Rohn or some of the old speakers that I like, and listen to just a little clip of them. I even go back and listen to some of my own content, because I don't remember everything I've ever produced. And there's a lot of teaching content and I learned from myself. Or I even learned that, okay, when I said that, it was in this context, but now I could add that and now I can expand on it. And then the other is journaling. Journaling is a huge piece of it, because then you're actively participating in tracking what you're learning and how you're applying it, because you have to know what it's meaning, for example. So for example, two of the most important areas people can personally develop are the core competencies of interpersonal skills and personal productivity skills, right? Those are the two most important things that someone could start with. It doesn't matter, if you read a million how-to success books, that's all great. But if you don't get good with people, well, you're not going to be good with people, and that's going to hurt you. And if you're not good with time, then you're not going to be good with time, and that's going to diminish your productivity anyway. And so you have to work on those skills. And there are lots of content out there. Heck, my blog has a bunch of articles over the last 20 years that you can just go search a topic and read. And there might be a video attached to it, there might not, but you only need to get one or two things, right? So let's take listening for an example. there's some tremendous books written on listening. Tremendous. It's the number one skill you could have with another human being. But you're not going to become a good listener just because you read a book. It's not going to happen, right? Now, you got to take one thing out of that book that you identify as a problem, which for most people is you interrupt people. That's it. That's what you do. You interrupt. And you have to practice not interrupting. And you can't just go, well, okay, I got that. I'm not going to interrupt. That's fine until the next time you talk to somebody and immediately you interrupt, right? Because just knowing about something isn't the same as knowing something. You don't know something until you don't have to even think about it, right? Till you're in a conversation and you don't even have the tendency to interrupt. You can just sit and listen and focus and ask the question and not have any need to insert yourself and what matters to you into the scenario, right? Because that's what skills do for you. They allow you to thrive in that way. And so those are the two areas that I would encourage everyone to start, because those are the two most important things that you would notice in a short window of time will begin to change your interactions with people and begin to change your results in whatever it is that you're doing. And then that causes you to accelerate your learning and you start to compound that. So those are my go-tos, right? And one thing that I would encourage everybody to do if you've never done it, and Chris, you set this up by what you said earlier. My favorite one is DISC. Some people like Myers-Briggs. There's a bunch of different ones out there, but I like DISC the most. Well, because I've been certified and trained it and used it with my coaching clients for many, many years. But it is so important to be clear what your blind spots are, and it will reveal that. And an example is the one you and your husband and your living room. I mean, what a great natural example. There are so many little irritations and frustrations you have with other people, and I'm not saying you, Chris, in this, I'm saying to the audience, that are driven by you, not by the other person. You are irritated with the other person because they're not being the way you prefer someone to be in that moment. And that is not someone else's problem. That's your problem. That is your lack of growth and understanding about why that is irritating you. And so I would encourage you, this is not optional. This is a big topic, because playing with your brain, like when I eat lunch, I don't just eat lunch. I eat lunch and I'll do a crossword puzzle. I'll eat lunch and I will watch a speaker. Or if I want to lighten up for the day, I'll watch a comedian and laugh,
Mhm.
right? And it's because that's good for you, right? So there's so many ways you can insert things that tease your mind and work your mind, but you have to exercise this muscle frequently. I can't stress it enough, but holy cow, we went,
Way over, but it's
yeah,
okay.
we've overdone you. We probably can't overdo this topic, but
No, you certainly can. But I know that there are a lot of good nuggets in here. If you have follow-up questions, you mentioned the disc test. If you need other examples or book examples, good books to start with, or anything, we're happy to share that with you.
yep,
Like
absolutely.
I said, go to his YouTube channel. There's a ton of information there. You can't go wrong there for sure.
All right,
Awesome.
Chris, thank you for
Thank
making
you.
this possible.
Yeah. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next week.
See you next time, everyone.
Bye.
Bye-bye.